this do happen, okay, we can see that sometimes, it ends up in the court and others. So in order to avoid such things from happening, it is very important that there must be this financial transparency. Developing trustworthiness in the financial activities. I think this is also important. Okay, so that there will be a mutual trust between all the parties involved. Okay, I was told that in Malaysia, people normally don't trust the bank. I don't know how true is it. Okay, people normally don't trust the bank. Whenever the bank offers certain things, they must be very transparent or explicit in what they say. Okay, if it is not, then people is not going to take their product. Okay, so perhaps if there is transparent, of course, that will lead to the that will lead to positive relationship. Okay, and a good relationship between the client and also the different financial institutions. So it is important for us to emphasize on this. Legal obligation versus moral obligation. Of course, sometimes when we talk about this issue, people might go to say that my legal obligation is this and this. Yes. Okay, if it is brought to the court, then you will be protected. Okay, because you have all the clause that you have written. Sometimes the client does not know what is there in the clause. Okay, so I believe, and I always emphasize that, on one side you have the legal obligation, but you should not neglect your moral obligation towards the client or when you are dealing with other people in a financial transaction. So we have to disclose. Okay? Of course, I'm not saying that you have to disclose everything. Okay? But there might be certain things which is confidential that you might not be able to disclose. But whatever is in the interest of the client, it should be disclosed, and we should tell them, okay, not just rely on our legal obligation, but okay, we are also morally obliged to inform, okay, about the details, because we see sometimes, whenever the client enters into certain kind of contract, they might not aware of the legal implication, okay, because the lawyers are the one who draft the document. Okay, sometimes, the ordinary person, if they read the document, they might not be able even to grab and understand the document. Okay, so it is important not to say to disclose everything, but at least the important clause that sometimes might lead to disputes, or what we have to inform the client about it and have to be transparent. So that I would say that it is a moral obligation that needs to be taken into consideration. And we can see that there are a number of steps, okay, that have been devised in Islam, okay, in order to make sure that there is this financial transparency. Okay, among others, giving option to the contractual parties. In the hadith, the Prophet says, the buyer and the seller have the option to cancel or to confirm the deal as long as they have not parted until they part. And if they spoke the truth and told each other the defense of the things, then blessings would be in their deal. And if they hide something and tell lies, the blessing of the deal would be lost. Okay, so we can see that, okay, how through option, perhaps Islam is allowing, okay, both parties to have the option whether to continue with the contract or not. Recording and witness in financial transaction, you can see this in the Quran. Allah says, "O you who believe, when you contract a debt for a fixed period, write it down. Let the scribe write it down in justice between you. Let not the scribe refuse to write, as Allah has taught him. So let him write. Let him, or the debtor who incurs the liability, dictate, and he must fear Allah, his Lord, and diminish not anything of what he knows. But if the debtor is of poor understanding or weak, or is unable himself to dictate, then let his guardian dictate in justice, and get two witnesses out of you, your own men. And if there are not two men available, then a man and two women, such as you agree for witnesses, so that if one of them errs, the other can remind her." You see, in this ayah, we can see that there are few times when the issue of justice, the issue of fear of Allah, okay, is mentioned in this ayah. So this, perhaps I believe that this is one of the things that we are lacking nowadays. Okay, whenever we do our transactions, whenever we indulge ourselves in business or whatever it is, the fear of Allah, okay, the justice sometimes we put aside. Okay, as long as I can make money, that's it. See, but when Allah mentioned about financial transaction, Allah mentioned about business, or Allah mentioned about the recording, Allah always emphasized that. Okay, so the spiritual side of the transaction must be taken into consideration. Sometimes people say that is not important. I say it is important. Why? Because we want the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, if there is no blessing of Allah in our business, then we can be assured that there will be no success in the business. So it is important, you see, to make sure that we take this into consideration and make sure that whatever we do is in line with what is there in the Quran. Proper documentation, okay, is also another important thing which Islam emphasizes. Okay, Islam said that business and also writing, okay, that includes proper documentation, mutual agreement, no manipulation of law, no hidden intention, as I mentioned earlier on. Now, validation of financial ownership, I emphasize on lawful financial ownership. That's why we have the theory of ownership in Islamic law, which emphasize about the way and means of how to acquire property, what the kind of property that can be acquired, and how is the process of the transfer of ownership and other things. So enactment of legal framework for financial activities in Islam, there are this legal framework. There are different regulations embedded in the theory of right, in the theory of ownership, contract. This all, of course, is devised in order to safeguard the Islamic economic activities. Now, quickly, I'll go to the specific objective in financial and banking transaction. One, prohibition of hoarding. I did mention earlier on about the investment. Okay, so here we can see that Islam prohibits hoarding, and in an ayah in the Quran, Allah mentioned that on the day when that al-kans, meaning that money, gold and silver that is hot, will be heated in the fire of hell, and with it will be blended their foreheads, their flanks and their backs, and it will be said unto them, this is the treasure which you hoarded for yourself, now taste of what you used to hoard. There are many hadiths